Okay, ladies and gents, Addy here, Anakin Skywalker. I'm analyzing these riots and basically this Antifa uprising that I think has hijacked the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm analyzing this movement through the lens of this book. This book is the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. And Mr. Greene organizes warfare into different types. And these different types are as follows. So the first one is self-directed warfare. The second, organizational team warfare. The third and fourth are defensive and offensive warfare consecutively. And the fifth is unconventional or dirty warfare. And this is the type of warfare that's going on right now. We don't have a hot war going on, right? There's not armies battling each other, but there is an unconventional and dirty war going on, one that can't really be readily seen with your two eyes necessarily, not all the time. And in this section, and every one of these sections, he has different types of strategies that he goes through there it is, that's much better. There it is, unconventional warfare. And within each section, he has these different strategies that he categorizes under each type of warfare. And the ones I've starred here, the ones that I believe Antifa are making use of. And this is kind of a philosophical bird's eye view of warfare, as opposed to concrete tactics that one might use. And this is kind of how Robert Greene writes, which I really enjoy, because he writes in a way that is not dogmatic and doesn't apply only to one particular situation. And that's what makes his books so fantastic. Lemonade. So the first strategy, excuse me. The first strategy is a misperception strategy. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. Since no creature can survive without the ability to see or sense what is going on around it, make it hard for your enemies to know what is going on around them, including what you are doing. Feed their expectations. Manufacture a reality to match their desires, and they will fool themselves. Control people's perceptions of reality, and you control them. And this, I believe, doesn't apply to the protesters or rioters, but the mass media that supports them. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. And the best lies have a bit of truth in them, right? And this is what mainstream media does, right? And we're seeing this from CNN and all the left-leaning outlets, not to mention some corporations as well, some very big corporations who are getting behind these riots. Control people's perceptions and you can control them. That's the entire mass media at large. And within each of these strategies, Robert Greene uses examples as well, concrete examples throughout history to show how this happens. And he uses examples from World War II and just every part of history that you can imagine. So that's a misperception strategy, weaving a seamless blend of fact and fiction. I believe that's the media's job in this uprising. The next one that I think applies to this situation is occupy the moral high ground. This is called the righteous strategy. In a political world, the cause you are fighting for must seem more than just than the enemy's. By questioning your opponent's motives and making them appear evil, you can narrow the base of support and room to maneuver. When you yourself come under moral attack from a clever enemy, do not whine or get angry. Fight fire with fire. This is, this has been the left strategy for like the last 4 years, right? The virtue signaling, the righteous moral indignation, the holier than thou attitudes that they bring forth. And not just that, the reason they're using this sort of behavior is to influence people. Because if you can get people to identify with a moral principle that resonates deep within them, you can control them very easily. But I don't really think that's necessarily what's going on. I think a lot of it is very surface level. People want to feel like they are good people and they're doing the right thing morally or ethically. And I think actually even beyond that, at an even more superficial level, something that applies to even more people is they want other people to look at them in a good light. I think it's that simple. Most people aren't thinking that deeply or that high up in terms of moral or ethical actualization. And the media uses this to their advantage by making white people feel guilty for slavery, making men feel guilty for sexism, etc. But as far as it pertains to this uprising, that is fundamental to the Black Lives Matter movement. The idea that morally all lives are equal. And I believe this. I 100% believe this. And I support treating everyone equally and giving everyone an equal opportunity, equality of opportunity. That being said, this moral high ground righteous strategy is being used by Antifa, by the media, and by those people who have hijacked the Black Lives Matter movement in order to control more people. And becoming aware of this is essential because a lot of people don't even realize they're being manipulated, right? That's by definition what manipulation is. It takes higher order thinking to get to this, I think. And a lot of people just don't have that, especially when they've been, ethically ambiguous for many years, and all of a sudden they're jumping onto this Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of them just to make themselves feel better or to join in with the crowd, or, like I said earlier, just so their neighbors don't think badly of them, think poorly of them, which is kind of the other side of the coin of wanting people to think good of you, is you don't want people to think bad of you as well, which is, I think, another motivating factor in this strategy. Again, it's called the righteous strategy. Occupy the moral high ground. And Antifa is using this. The next strategy is called the alliance strategy. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. This applies directly to anyone who's co-opted the Black Lives Matter movement. It seems like they're working for equality for all the races, like they're fighting against injustice, when in reality, the communists are trying to take control of the BLM movement. So they're seeming to work for the interests of Black lives, but in reality, they're furthering their own interests. Like they have co-opted the movement. The best way to advance your cause with the minimum of effort and bloodshed is to create a constantly shifting network of alliances, getting others to compensate for your deficiencies, do your dirty work, and fight your wars. So we see this as well. They're using the protesters to do their work for them, whether it's destroying businesses or otherwise causing mayhem. At the same time, you must work to sow dissension in the alliances of others, weakening your enemies by isolating them. And let me just pull this up so people know exactly which book that I'm referring to. There we go. This is a 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Fantastic book. Let me share this screen so people can see this. There we go. So this book, right? Weakening your enemies by isolating them. And that's the alliance strategy. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. The next strategy is the Fait Accompli strategy. Take small bites. Overt power grabs and sharp rises to the top are dangerous, creating envy, distrust, and suspicion. Often the best solution is to take small bites, swallow little territories, playing upon people's relatively short attention spans. Before people realize it, you have accumulated an empire. And this applies directly to Chaz, right? Or Chad, whatever their country name is now, which I think actually got disbanded. Don't quote me on that, but I saw that the police were moving in. So the best solution often is to take small bites, swallow little territories. So they push the boundary and then they wait a bit. They push the boundary and they wait a bit. And, you know, pretty much all authoritarian dictatorships started out using this strategy to some extent. They wouldn't overtly go for all the power at once. You know, the Nazis didn't do that. There were inflection points where they made big moves, you know, Kristallnacht and Night of the Long Knives. But as far as, to use the example of the Holocaust, they, you know, slowly eroded the Jewish people's rights. They didn't do it all at once. And we're seeing this here as well, not just from the communists or whoever's co-opted the BLM movement, but from our government as well, with the liberties that they're trying to take away in this pandemic. So that is the Fait Accompli strategy. Take small bites. The next strategy they're using, I believe, is penetrate their minds. Communication strategies. Communication is a kind of war. It's a field of battle of the resistant and defensive minds of the people you want to influence. The goal is to penetrate their defenses and occupy their minds. Learn to infiltrate your ideas behind enemy lines, sending messages through little details, luring people into coming to the conclusions you desire and into thinking they've gotten there by themselves. That's great. That's great. This just ties in back to the media again. And not just the big media giants, but whoever is working for them on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or otherwise. It's become a war for communication and media nowadays, where the propaganda is relentless. And I think another thing too is people don't realize that they are being brainwashed. And I saw this really profound idea, I heard it rather from this YouTuber called Elliot Hulse, and he broke it down very simply. He said anything that you put into your mind, that you put in front of your eyes, is to some degree brainwashing you. And he says because of that, you should be very careful about what information you do let into your mind. And this is probably the main battlefield, I think, right now, is the communication sphere, the information sphere, right? And we can affect a lot of other people just by having an internet connection and getting our messages out. So this applies not only to BLM, but to the good guys too, the people who are fighting the good fight. The next strategy is called the inner front strategy. Destroy from within. By infiltrating your opponent's ranks, working from within to bring them down, you give them nothing to see or react against. The ultimate advantage. To take something you want, do not fight those who have it, but rather join them. Either slowly make it your own or wait for the moment to stage a coup d'etat. You could not describe the situation more perfectly. the inner front strategy. By infiltrating your opponent's ranks and working from within to bring them down, you can take something you want. Do not fight those who have it, but join them and wait for the moment to stage the coup. And this is what is going on with these protests. Not only that, but these traitors in the government as well. And the final strategy, I believe, applies aptly to this situation of the Antifa Uprising and insurrection and the co-opting of the BLM movement, is the chain reaction strategy. And this is the last strategy. Sow uncertainty and panic through acts of terror. Terror is the ultimate way to paralyze a people's will to resist and destroy their ability to plan a strategic response. The goal in a terror campaign is not a battlefield victory, but causing maximum chaos and provoking the other side into desperate overreaction. To plot the most effective counter strategy, victims of terror must stay balanced. One's rationality is the last line of defense. And you're seeing kind of these terror actions with the rioters, burning down buildings and other things. And I do want to make myself clear on this. I support protesting the police. I believe I have almost nothing but contempt for police officers. And I just don't want people to come at me with one or two are good. Look, according to the RICO Act, if you're part of a criminal organization, you are a criminal, okay? I don't want to hear this, oh, there's a couple good police officers. There's a couple good gangsters out there too, but they're still part of a criminal organization. That doesn't mean they're not criminals, okay? So I want to make that very clear. I don't support the police, okay? I support legal and righteous and ethical policing, but that doesn't exist in the United States, okay? So I want to make that clear. And the building burnings and just a lot of this stuff, especially in the Seattle area, you're seeing is very unjustified. You see, not homeowners, store owners getting robbed blind, store owners getting attacked physically and beaten. These are acts of terror. They're sowing uncertainty and panic through the chain reaction strategy. So this is my analysis of the Black Lives Matter Antifa co-opting of this movement and what the communists are doing at this current time. And it's through the lens of the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. I highly recommend people check it out. I will do a more in-depth review at some later point, but I wanted to share my analysis of this whole situation that's going on right now through this lens. Stay frosty. Until next time, people.